We welcome you into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show, coming to you from Quaker Steak and Lube. And yes, once again, we are goonless. The dear Goon recovering on this rainy, dreary afternoon here in the Valley of Happiness. So once again, Chris Bucanati comes out of the bullpen. We greatly appreciate it. And
brutal. All the
things,
weather shifts.
Yeah,
it's killing people's sinuses, and if you got migraines, it's rough.
This is always an awful time of the year around here, just because you get those ebb and flow temperature wise, and you still get some rain, you still get some snow, you still get days where it's 50 and sunny, and then the next day it's 30 and rainy, and the colds and sore throats and earaches, all of that stuff just seem to be very prevalent.
The whole week, from what I understand. I mean, that's what we're going to get.
Yeah,
all of that.
Yep, it's and that's what happens every year as we make the turn toward March. That's the way it is here in central Pennsylvania. A few things we can get into today, on the national sports front. It is going to be fascinating to see how some things play out here this offseason in the NFL.
It seems like just yesterday that we were going through this with Brett Favre, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel that long ago to me. I'm still sick of Brett Favre coverage, and now we're going to do it all over again.
Yep. And I'm telling you, for all of the talk about Aaron Rodgers and what's happening and how to read the cryptic messages that he's putting out there, and nobody knows. I don't know if he knows what direction he actually wants to head.
I don't think he does.
Heading into next season. But, I said after the Tom Brady announcement of that he was retiring, I'm like, we'll wait and see. I'll believe it when it actually happens. And I think already you're seeing it is really hard for anybody, I think, that has competed at that level to give it up, right? I mean, you've heard numerous interviews over the years of elite athletes, and they talk about how difficult it is to make that transition then to whatever the next phase of their life is, and some never really do, right? I mean, it haunts some people. Now, some are able to make it and make it very successfully and enjoy a fulfilling life beyond the athletic careers. And I think Tom Brady will fall into that category, by the way. I think that is a guy that once there may be a part of him that misses it, but that dude with his family and with all of the different ventures he has going on, I don't think he's going to be sitting around feeling sorry for himself that he's not competing.
But he's still in shape and he can still play.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So a lot of these guys that are elite, right, that they have a hard time giving it up, but they have to because they come to the realization that, my God, I can't play anywhere near where I need to play for my own satisfaction. Brady can. I mean, he has been. I mean, he might not be playing where he was at the absolute peak of his career, but dude is in MVP conversations for each of the last 2 years. That's pretty darn good. I mean, you can certainly make an argument, and he's certainly one of the top, 3, 5 for sure, and probably one of the top 3 strongest candidates for MVP this past season. So this is and when you look at his age, right? I mean, it truly is insane. And the dedication and the devotion. And I finally saw. I know it came out a long while ago, but I finally saw the 30 for 30 thing with him and Charles Woodson, and talking about the. It was just on. I don't know. I was flipping through the TV and stayed with it. I didn't see the whole thing, but it is one of those things that it just is fascinating to me, and I don't know if it is to other people or not, but when you, and obviously they're talking about the fumble that wasn't, the whole ridiculous tuck roll and
Right.
the debate over.
Right.
But Tom Brady conceded during that. Yeah, if that, and they even did like a reenactment of the officials coming out and saying, the call in the field stands, it is a fumble. And then it's like, how different does that trajectory look? And does he even ever get the opportunity, and Brady says, listen, I mean, I wouldn't have had the career trajectory that I took, but I think I still would have gotten to a very high place, would have won Super Bowls, all of that, but admits, I don't know if it would have necessarily been in New England, when it would have been, how it would have transpired. And it is, and you can do it with all kinds of things. We've done it, we talked about it with the 2016 Penn State football season. You go back to 2005 and, a play here or there that changes the trajectory, and go the other side. If Minnesota misses the field goal, just everything else plays out exactly the same, but in 99, the kick just goes a foot to the left of the left upright. And again, we don't know. Maybe Penn State still turns around and loses the next two games, and it's still a disappointing season. Or maybe, and it is just one of those things. It's just one call, one little thing that can change. And forget about sports. It can change the trajectory of a life, right? I mean, we've people that get in a car accident and you end up with debilitating injuries that change your entire life, or you win a lottery and you think, my God, this sets me on easy street, and all of the stories about people who have won the lottery and then they end up more down and out than they ever could have imagined before that. And it's just interesting to me to think about how, again, just one little moment, one way or the other, can change the entire direction of somebody's life or somebody's athletic career or what have you. Couple of things wanted to talk about. Obviously, Penn State basketball. We've talked about it is hard to win on the road, and I get it in the Big Ten. But I shared with you, I really thought after the wins over Michigan State and Minnesota, there was a real opportunity, and I thought, I truly did. I thought Penn State was going to be able to, after all of the tough games they've played this season. You look at the schedule and the way it was set up, like I think they're going to run the table and go into the Big Ten tournament with a ton of momentum. And obviously that's not going to happen. They turn around and lose to Maryland in another very winnable game. They just dig too big of a hole, and then again, make it exciting, come back, and fall short. And it's just it's frustrating. I mean, I don't even know what other label to put on it, because they just
right there with
they looked so good. I mean, the win over Michigan State obviously was big, but then they followed that up right with a short turnaround. And I get it, both home games. I mean, I understand that, but they turn it around with the short turnaround and just absolutely. And I could kind of feel it coming. I don't know about necessarily as wide of a gap as there was in that game, but I really did think they were going to be dialed in after I think a game that they thought they should have had in Minneapolis. And that is a team that I think Penn State is overall better than. I mean, I think if they played on a neutral court 10 times, Penn State I think is probably winning 7 or 8 of them anyway against Minnesota.
Fair.
But then again, they had some time to get ready for Maryland. I don't know. I thought it would be a better performance there and a better result for sure. And now we'll see. Again, still an opportunity to finish strongly here down the stretch and get some momentum into the Big Ten tournament, and still an opportunity to keep the season going, obviously, after the Big Ten tournament, depending on what happens down the stretch here in the regular season and then obviously in the tournament.
Yeah. I just don't want to sound like a broken record, but we've just been hitting on it over and over again. The offensive limitations on the roster put you in a position far too often where if you're not on a hot streak, you need to have one or two guys who are really on a heater.
Yeah.
You just can't stay in games. I mean, Maryland gave them every opportunity
They tried.
to be able to get back in that game, and they just don't have a level of consistency on the roster that when they're having just even a little bit of an off night, that they can stay in games even against mediocre competition.
Yeah.
And that's really where the improvement needs to be made. The difference between having a very surprising record for this team and one that looks a lot more about like what you would have expected is where the floor is on its offensive potential.
Yeah.
Right. If they just can bring that up, I think that's a difference of 3 to 4 wins this year.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Because you win UMass, you win that Minnesota game, you win that Maryland game, and then there's got to be.
Well, there's a couple of other ones where you had. I mean, it was a possession
Purdue,
or two game,
probably,
right? And could
home.
have gone either way. And again, we'll see what happens down the stretch here. I do still like. Obviously, I love Shrewsbury as a coach, and I do think I think this will be the worst roster. And again, not that this is an awful roster, but I think this will be the worst roster that he has.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, you look at the recruits coming in next year, and obviously he's hoping to build then upon that. But with the kids they have coming in next year, you're certainly expecting. He's certainly expecting this to be the worst roster. And again, that's not. This is not. We've seen many worse rosters here at Penn State. Let me put it that way. But I do think they're going to keep building this thing in the right direction. And I don't know what the ceiling is. I've had multiple discussions over the years on what is realistic to expect. If you get everything hitting right with Penn State basketball. And I don't know, but I do think you can get to the tournament more often than not. When you're playing in a conference like the Big Ten and you have the overall, not basketball name brand, but the overall name brand that Penn State does, I don't think it's unrealistic to think that Penn State can be. I think it's unrealistic to expect Penn State to be in the NCAA tournament 8 or 9 years in a decade. But I don't think it's unrealistic for this program to get to the point where it's going to the NCAA tournament 5 or 6 times in a decade, and going to the NIT a couple times, and maybe you have a couple of years where you're missing and rebuilding. I don't think that's an unreasonable, and I have people that will debate me on that, but I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation.
I mean, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt playing in the Big Ten. You don't have to be a world beater to be a bubble tournament team, right? In this conference.
Yeah, and I think again, I don't think it's realistic to think that Penn State is going to be consistently in basketball where Duke and Kentucky and Kansas are. But again, I think being a top 20 type team once or twice every 3 or 4 years, I don't think that's unrealistic. I think, again, you've got to get some things in place and you got to get the right coach. And obviously recruiting is everything in all of these sports. But you have, very good recruiting hubs to draw from for Penn State basketball, not far away. Yeah. So, again, we'll see what happens. I am overall optimistic about the program. And I'm just wanting to see how this thing finishes up for this season and this year's team. I still think, again, the opportunity is there for a very strong overall finish. You've won 2 of the last 3. I think when you look at the schedule, there's not a game there that you think is unwinnable. The game to end the year at Rutgers is probably the toughest of the remaining games, but I think that's, again, a winnable game. And I think everything else, really, they should win. Penn State should win the others.
I would hope.
So we'll see. What's your there's been a lot said on the Juwan Howard and the Michigan Wisconsin thing.
Yeah.
For my money, I think they got it about right with the 5-game suspension for Howard.
Agreed.
I know there were some that were calling for Howard to be fired, and I don't think it's a completely unreasonable position to take. I do think that would be an overreaction, and I think it's too harsh. And I understand those. I mean, I've read columns and I've been listening to some of the sports talk and there are people that are, listen, you are, as a coach, you were paid a whole lot of money to set the example for these young people. And I get it. And I'm with you on it. At the same time, we are all human beings. And as somebody that falls short of my own expectations way too often, I guess I want to be forgiven a little more than I would be allowed to be if we're going to fire Juwan Howard for that particular incident.
Boy, our society needs to be more forgiving in general. So
Yeah,
I am all for.
And I think he did, not in the post-game press conference. I did think, but both coaches didn't do a great job of owning anything in those post-game press conferences. But I do think Howard came out and said the right things the next day. And again, the 5-game suspension feels about right. You can't tolerate it. You can't say that that's something you're going to allow. At the same time, again, if it's not a recurring, and I know there was the one other situation with him, but it wasn't punches being thrown. I just, again, to me, that felt about right. The fines seem about right to me. And, I think everybody moves on and hopefully learns from it. The timeouts down the stretch, you can think it's Bush League. You can argue the other way. I don't think it matters. At the end of the day, again, it's just like the in a football game. If somebody's, the backup quarterback is throwing, some coaches will get the other sideline and you're up 5 touchdowns.
Like
some
Doug
coaches
Graber.
go,
he doesn't like that. He
did not like that. But again, you can like it or not like it, but if you don't like it, again, it's up to you to do something about it.
Well, and sports is supposed to teach you about life, right? Like, it's supposed to teach you life lessons. And one of the very valuable lessons I think I got from sports is sometimes you're going to get your skull caved in. Like, you are absolutely going to get your ass kicked. And you've got to be able to carry yourself with a certain level of decorum when that happens. And I was thinking about 2 situations in Penn State football history where we were on either side of one of these debates. When we beat up Michigan State real good to win the Big Ten in 2008, and it was 3:30 kickoff, so the end of the game, it's dark, it's night, it had snowed, it was freezing cold, and that SLB Mark D'Antonio used all of his damn timeouts just to make the fans sit longer in the cold until we could celebrate the Big Ten championship. And that was cheesy, and I didn't like it, but, whatever. And then a few years later, 8 years later, in the 2017 Georgia State game, that night game, at the very end of the game, Penn State, I think, won like 52 or 56-0, and they were going to try to kick a field goal, and they lined up, and we called a timeout right at the end of the game. Now, again, look, if you're losing 56-0, I don't know why you're kicking a field goal. They were like, throw for the end zone, for God's sake. But either way, guess what? Was that petty of James Franklin? Was it petty of Mark D'Antonio? I mean, arguably, but you know what? Like, stiff upper lip, shut up and take it.
Well, and that's the thing. So going back to what instigated everything in the Michigan-Wisconsin game.
Just deal
but
with
Michigan
it,
is putting on the full court press, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so to me, it's a legitimate thing with your backups to say, listen, I want our guys to try to break the press and to understand what it is. That seems and it does not seem legit to a lot of the basketball experts. I've been listening to a lot of the guys and I'm like, oh no, that was Bush League. I'm like, well, okay, but if it sounds more legit than these guys are making it sound to me, because again, if it is one thing to me, and again, you can still do whatever you want as a coach within the parameter of the rules, right? So even if Michigan is just they've conceded and they're just laying back, if you want to call the timeout here in Wisconsin, you can still do it. Again, we can argue this Bush League, but if you are going to be playing hard, and I'm okay with that if you're Michigan, I think you're trying to coach your guys up. Again, but I'm okay with Wisconsin trying to coach the backups up also. Again, if you're going to be playing hard, then you are not conceding the game, right? I mean, the game is out of reach, but you are still playing to try to get another possession, to try to force a turnover. And again, I'm okay with that. But then to turn around and be upset that to me, this still falls largely back on Juwan Howard. And again, I'm okay with everything the way it's turned out here. Mm-hmm. The whole grabbing of the arm thing, and that seems to be the focus of the national debate is, well, yeah, but Juwan Howard's arm was grabbed first. It's a lot like when Joe Paterno, and I was all over Paterno in that Iowa game when he grabbed the official. Right. I don't think a coach should be grabbing should be touching an official, period.
The refs.
But when it's one-on-one, like if I'm – and I didn't think again, two people can view something, the exact same thing, from the exact same angle and have two different takes on it.
Yeah.
I did not think that was an aggressive – it did look to me like he was saying, hey, and, well, that to me is different than, listen, you jerk. Like, and that is not what that is what I think many are portraying it to be, and I did not think that's what it was. The whole, well, you should never touch anybody, and I forget, one of the ESPN analysts is like, no, you just never touch. Well, you're shaking hands. That's touching, you knucklehead.
Yeah.
Like that is. And then I was listening, there was a debate about that today, whether or not there should be handshakes after the game.
That's ridiculous.
Part of this is sportsmanship, guys. Like, that is part of what we're supposed to be in this for, and, I am a big believer, bringing up Joe Paterno more than I thought I would today. But, Joe Paterno talked earnestly, and I think he's exactly right. And I've been thinking about it a lot with the wrestling team this year. Paterno never liked the booing of the opponent, because he's like, without the opponent, we don't have a game. And the better the opponent, the better the opportunity for us to showcase what we can do and challenge ourselves. And, there's a reason you celebrate a win over Ohio State, right? It is significant, right. And it's because that is a team that is going to challenge you, and it means something when you beat an Ohio State versus and nothing against the Mid-American Conference schools, but again, I mean, a Big Ten school at home should be beating those teams. Yeah. Toledo, but listen, at the end of the day, again, you want those opportunities, and you want them to be against teams that are meaningful, right? Like that's what makes sports, winning the Masters means something, because you're competing against the other top golfers in the world. If you're competing against a bunch of amateurs and you're a pro, I mean, it doesn't mean as much, right? Yep. There's a reason these things are special. So I don't know. To me, and so I think at the end of the day, win, lose, or draw, there is something to be said to shaking somebody's hand and saying, hey, good effort if you're on the losing end, and hey, you got a heck of a team hopefully we'll see you down the road type thing if you're on the other end.
This is something that's my buddy Buzzsaw had the perfect tweet about this. So this is something that's been going on. Handshake line has been going on at every level of sports for how long? You know, what the people say that's one of the greatest features of NHL games. They love watching the handshake line after these guys play an intense playoff game. And then there's this show of mutual respect, sportsmanship, whatever at the end. There have been 9,000 college basketball games played this season. Just college basketball this season. And like Juwan Howard pops off one night and takes like a half-ass swing at a guy, and we're just going, that's it, get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Just go to the locker room and call it a day. Yeah, that seems
nuts. It's nuts.
Seems a little silly to me, but
well, and again, it does to me send a ridiculous message where like there is a level of discipline, right? There's an instructive lesson in the handshake line, because I do think you get a lot out of life in sports, learning to be a good winner and a good loser, because it's hard to be a good winner sometimes. Sometimes you really want to shove it in the opponent's face, and it's good to learn to win with class and lose with grace. And so there's value in that, and I do think that sports on the youth and even the college level, part of its function is to teach. Yeah. Now, maybe not so much on the professional level, but college and youth, I am naive enough to believe, Ironhead, that part of the function is to teach. And it's a stupid lesson. It's a dumb lesson to send to young athletes to say, well, we can't trust our coaches to not try to fist fight each other. So now we're not going to do handshake line anymore.
Yeah,
it's
just call it a day.
That's an asinine viewpoint.
I'm with you on that, and I hope there's no serious entertaining of that at the upper levels.
I don't think there's going to be.
I don't think so either. But
Aaron Rodgers is going to ride to the rescue and distract all these fools with the next shiny object. They'll never think or talk about this ever again.
There you go. Let's take a break here, and we will be back with more of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show with Booch filling in for Goon today as we continue after this from Quaker Steak and Lube.
The leap of faith. Some hesitate, but not you. You don't ask what if. You embrace what's next with open arms. You don't question your decision. You double down. Because you know the thrill is worth it. Introducing the 2022 Telluride Nightfall Edition.
There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube. From live music to exciting new flavors, meet your friends and refuel at your local Quaker Steak and Lube today. Can't slow down? Then order online. Pick up and get back on the road. Find us at thelube.com.
Hi, Johnny Broom here. If you're in the market for a new Hyundai or a pre-owned car, truck, van, or SUV, nobody beats a Blaze Alexander deal. But don't take my word for it.
Hey, Goon says tell him Johnny sent you.
Hey, tell him Johnny sent ya.
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Wait, tell him Juan or tell him Johnny sent you?
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Here at Bill Pickles Tap Room, we said,
tell him Johnny sent you.
And remember,
tell him Johnny sent you.
And we welcome you back in to Quaker Steak and Lube on a dreary day. Good place to be on a day like this.
It is.
I gotta tell you.
It is.
And we are enjoying our stay, as we always do here at Quaker Steak and Lube.
Great wings.
And invite you to come on down. Absolutely.
All the latest Aaron Rodgers rumors on the TV.
Enjoy the NHL if NBA is your thing. College basketball. They'll have the Big Ten finals on here on Sunday afternoon, a week from this Sunday in wrestling. They've got something big in sports occurring. You want to check it out. Daytona 500 this past Sunday. Masters coming up here in April. All available on the TV screens here with some great food and beverage at Quaker Steak and Lube. And talk about the frustration for Penn State basketball, Booch. The Penn State hockey team, boy, this has just been a tough season. Just so many games that feel like they're there for the taking, and they just they keep falling. And the 2 losses to Minnesota this past weekend just hurt. It's just been a tough season. I think you chalk it up as just one of those years, and I hope everything gets back on track. There's definitely been, I think the expectation was this would be a bit of a rebuilding year.
Yeah.
I really thought by this stage of the season, though, that they'd be in a position where they were winning these games more consistently and more often than not. But again, it's just crazy. They are in just about every game.
Yeah.
And just the third periods have just been more often than not just very tough to watch if you're a Penn State fan, home or away.
Kind of like we were saying with the basketball team, they don't have as many pure scorers as they have had in the past when they went on that nice little run. So they've got to, they're still playing the same style we're used to with volume shooting. But even in the days when they were putting a lot of shots on net, I think they were probably just getting the percentage of them that were, I guess you would say high quality scoring opportunities were higher just because you had guys with a little bit more natural ability in that category. It does feel to me like that program, probably more than any other at Penn State, really got thrown off track by COVID. And I think it's two things. I think it's the timing was terrible because even more than the basketball team, even more than the wrestling team, hockey was set up to have its moment, and that was taken away by coronavirus.
Yep.
And then if you factor in what I think compared to any other sport is the unconventional way talent comes in and out of the program in hockey.
Yeah.
That kind of a window slams shut and robs you of the momentum to capitalize it on recruiting new talent.
Yeah.
That can really resonate for a few years afterwards because the guys come in and out of the program so quickly. You want to be able to go to the next, you look at Michigan's team this year, you want to be able to go to the next hired gun or you maybe going to have in your building for 2 years. Hey, look at what we've got going on at Penn State. Look at the facilities you want to come be a part of keeping this momentum going.
Yeah.
So I think, man, COVID really, really came at the worst possible time for Penn State hockey.
Yeah, and I will say I am still very unsure as to how the whole transfer portal and the NIL stuff is going to affect, especially a sport like hockey, but even overall, you look at what like Texas football's program and what it is offering recruits now coming in and the financial opportunities there, and then Texas A&M. Like, I still don't know. It feels like there may be something like coming in terms of just a transformational shift in where the power lies throughout college athletics and in terms of the big time programs in football and basketball in particular, but across the board.
Imagine if the Big Ten can actually command $10 billion in media rights money.
Well, right. Or does it just kind of it settles into kind of business as usual? Again, it'll be a different business, but hey, at the end of the day, the Ohio States are still the Ohio States, the Alabamas and the Penn States, and everybody's kind of, and I don't know. I can make the argument right now, and I can see the scenario playing out where no, it's going to completely change. And Penn State, and Goon's talked about it with the financial pool that is here. It is not comparable to what like USC can pull from in the LA market or like Miami, and Can I see a scenario where 10 years down the road, yep, we're talking about how, remember how Penn State used to be a major player in college athletics and, through no fault of their own. And we could argue that one way or the other too, I'm sure, down the road in terms of how prepared or unprepared the school and others were. Or again, does it settle down and it's, well, no, Penn State's still Penn State. And, I don't know. I think it is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out because I don't know. I don't know how many kids get influenced. Well, this school's I think I can get an NIL deal for $50,000, but if I go here, it's $200,000. So I'm going to the $200,000. I mean, I've talked about it before, but with Kale, I used to think that there had to be something going on at Iowa under Dan Gable for them to keep getting the number of high caliber kids that there were. But I talked to some people that were out there at the time, and they're like, no, I'm telling you, it's like they have guys that are just willing to accept less money. And I'm talking scholarship money. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But saying that, listen, because they want to be part of Dan Gable's program. Sure. And so you have, elite guys that could be getting full rides to, even like Iowa State or Oklahoma State saying, no, I'll take a half ride to Iowa because I want to be part of the Gable program. And I'm like, well, that's – and at the time, I didn't think it made sense. I'm like, no, there's no way that's what's happening. But that is what happens when you get that type of program. And I suspect, with, it's different in football where it's you don't get the partial scholarships. But, certainly with Cale Sanderson and Penn State, they have had elite guys that have full ride offers elsewhere that have, said, we're good with 3/4 or whatever it may be, because our family can afford it. One, and we want to be part of something that's special and bigger than us, and that's. Again, I don't know if that's necessarily the norm, and I don't know if that continues down the road. If, again, the NIL money gets significantly ramped up at other schools compared to Penn State. And I don't know if Penn State ramps up the NIL opportunities and is competitive on that front. There are certainly some big money alumni, whether they're based in State College or Pennsylvania or not, that can reach out and probably help make some things happen. And I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to me just to see again how this plays out, not just at Penn State but across the board nationally and in all of the sports, and certainly in football and basketball, and I think hockey at Penn State, to see how again that ultimately plays itself out. And we're not going to really know or see kind of how the things are shifting, if they're shifting, for probably about 5 years. And then again, you're going to have a good feel of, oops, we missed the boat, or okay, we're all right.
And that's good news for Penn State fans. You need that extra time to maneuver, because right now we're a little bit behind the 8 ball.
For sure.
I do think, here's my feeling on NIL. I think that we are not in a great spot because there are those natural factors you talked about that will always work against Penn State versus some other programs. And I think we've compounded that with self-harm by just not doing a great job with it. I don't think it's irrecoverable by any stretch. And I think the strategy for Penn State needs to be, and this is complicated by the fact that the athletic department, I'm sure, has to have communication, but can't be directly hands-on. You can't put this directly onto the people in the football program or in Bryce Jordan Center or Old Main and say, you're in charge of this. There's got to be at least like a faux boundary separating the two. But I think the overall strategy needs to be, we're not going to even try to compete with the top end $35 million recruiting classes. We're not going to do that. What we're going to try to do is provide a really solid baseline for everyone in a way that's consistent with the ethos of Penn State. Build where we can opportunities for our star players to capitalize on their name, image, like this. Look, Saquon Barkley and Micah Parsons would have done very, very well if this was something that, like, Darryl Clark would have made a lot of money, 12 years ago. So just be competitive in that, and then let everything else that has always sold Penn State continue to sell itself. So you just tell everybody, hey, look, if you're looking to make $30 million, like this not the place to come do it. But if you want to put a good amount of money in your pocket, have a great experience, have all these other things we can offer, and then you're part of an alumni network that pays for itself for the rest of your life, then you got something going. Then you maybe
I do
stay
think
in the game.
that is something that Penn State needs to really sell and explain to recruits, right? Is you might not get as much upfront as some of these other schools are going to be able to get you, but look at the stadium. It's 107,000 plus that are going to be, I'm talking football recruiting now, but and a lot of those are Penn State alums that have done very, very well for themselves. And with your reputation as a hard worker, if you come in and you bust your tail in the program, regardless of whether the football career works out, and obviously we have a great reputation with the NFL, and you look at the number of stars we put in the NFL, so this is a great place to do that. But if you do fall short, unlike some of these other schools where, you might get the $1 million while you're in school, but then that's it.
Right.
Like then you're, and if you invest wisely and all of that, it could set you up very well. But, maybe it's, 100,000 over the course of the career here at Penn State up front, but then you use the connections that we have in whatever field you may be in, because there are Penn Staters everywhere. And listen, we can network you into a very long-term sustainable career above and beyond your once your athletic career comes to an end, that propels you into a future of sustained success. And and I do think that there's an angle to work there if you're Penn State. And I think it's a legit angle to work if you're Penn State.
Agreed.
But it's a little harder work also up front. Because everybody, it's the we are in a society where the immediate gratification thing is real, and that is what many people are looking for. And if you don't get it, it's why we have so many coaching changes every year at the NFL and even at the college football level, is because, oh my gosh, it's been 2 years and we're not winning national titles or getting to the Super Bowl. Let's find the next hot thing that's out there that will do that for us.
I think it's the modern equivalent for Penn State in football recruiting of, we're going to put you up in the dorm on your campus visit instead of a 5-star hotel. And that worked very well for Penn State. For a long time, you don't have to be the best, the glitziest, the most glamorous. Just be in the game. Don't be the worst. Have enough opportunities that you're not choosing between a bag of money over here and nothing at Penn State.
Yeah.
You just got to stay in the game. And then I think you let everything else sell itself. And I think a hidden benefit of that then is that you've got an entire locker room full of players who made that same decision. So no matter what their skill sets or backgrounds are, there is some commonality between everyone on your team because they bought that same sales pitch. And I think, there's something to be said for having everyone on the same page generally. But if I think back to one of the greatest football games in Penn State history, that 86 Fiesta Bowl, having everyone who's willing to buy into that all-for-one ethos can give you collectively the potential as a group to conquer giants. So again, just get to that point. We don't have to have a $35 million recruiting class. And I've got good news for you. it's good that we don't have to have one because it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that. We're not going to be the crazy Texas schools. So just figure out where your realistic goals are and start working towards them, and then let everything else that's great about Penn State sell itself.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on all of that. Couple other things just to touch on as we round our way toward the end of today's show. Did want to talk just a little bit with the. Let's go to the wrestling team real quick. It is interesting to me. I just wrote a column for the Pennsylvania Wrestling newspaper that the presumed starting lineup for Penn State in the Big Ten tournament will be a lineup that we did not see once the entire season. And obviously in large part because Brady Berge moved down to 157. So that's only happened in one duel. And obviously Aaron Brooks wasn't in the duel against Ryder for that match on Sunday. But it is interesting that you go into a postseason tournament with a lineup from top to bottom that again has never competed as a team during the dual meet season. I'll have to go back and look. That's probably happened just because, like Carson Kuhn, when he came in, I mean, it was basically right at the end. It may have happened a time or two, but that is not the norm where you never saw that group together all season long.
Yeah.
But I do think this lineup gives Penn State its best lineup and best opportunity to have success. And it is just kind of crazy the way this season has played out. Sometimes things, don't come together the way you were hoping, as was the case for Penn State last season. And then this season, not only, again, do I think this lineup has come together to give Penn State its the strongest possible lineup it could have had this season. But you look at Spencer Lee missing the rest of the season for Iowa. You look at AJ Ferrari, unfortunately getting into the car accident, but that opens things up at 197 for Max Dean. And not listen, I think Dean was a national title contender whether Ferrari was there or not. But obviously with him out of the mix at 197, it is an easier, not an easy, but an easier path to winning a title. So it just, again, assuming, and I'll knock on wood here, that the 10 guys that Penn State is expected to have in the Big Ten tournament, as of right now, it looks like they will all be fully healthy, ready to go, energized, the whole bit, which is, again, what you're hoping for every year. There's nobody that's, Starachi's wrist, I guess, is probably the most significant thing injury-wise that they have going into the tournament, again, assuming nothing happens in practice over the next couple of weeks. And that's just, again, what you hope for every year. It doesn't often happen quite to the degree that it looks like it's going to happen here for Penn State. And then, again, it is one of those seasons where it feels like everything is lining up to give Penn State, at least its best opportunity to get another title here under Cale Sanderson and the staff. And again, that's good news if you're a Penn State fan. And I do think this team has a chance to do some special things in the postseason. Obviously, with 5 guys now ranked number 1, even the possibility of getting 5 or more into the finals is significant. That does not happen very often, that you get half of your lineup into the finals. And again, plenty of work to be done, nothing guaranteed. But I think those 5, along with Drew Hildebrandt and Greg Kirkfleet, and listen, I'm telling you, Brady Berge at 157, I know there are people that are viewing him as a real long shot to even make the podium. I'm telling you, that guy at 157, as dialed in as he is right now, and with the movement that he showed on Sunday against Ryder, I think that guy is certainly in contention for a top 5 finish. And I do not put it past Brady Berge to end up winning the whole thing, or at least, again, depending on how the brackets break out, get an opportunity to finish second or third, depending on when he meets David Carr in the tournament. And so that's, 8 weight classes where I think Penn State has wrestlers that are capable of getting to the finals. Now,
that's crazy.
How
spoiled, by the way.
Yeah.
To casually talk about 5 guys making the finals again.
Yeah.
Right. It's mind blowing.
It is. It's insane. I mean, it really is. And listen, I think that, the unfortunate part for, I'm curious to see what the Big Ten does with the seeding at heavyweight. Because you have a situation where Kirkley right now is ranked 5th nationally. But what has happened in the Big Ten is Gable Stevenson obviously has run the table and is clearly the number 1 seed.
Yeah,
no
sure.
questions asked. But after that, I think you have some real debate here. Kirkfleet's only losses to Cassiope. Cassiope's only loss in the Big Ten was to Stevenson. Now, he and Paris did not wrestle each other this season. And Cassiope, had that kind of fluky loss by fall out of conference to start the season against Princeton. So, but you have 2 losses for Cassiope. But you do have the head-to-head win for him over Kirkfleet.
Yeah.
But you have Kirkfleet's win over Paris, which was, I think, every bit as decisive as Cassiope's win over Kirkfleet was. And Cassiope's win over Kirkfleet was decisive in that bout. The presumption seems to be, in some of the people I'm talking to elsewhere in the Big Ten, is that it will be Stevenson, Paris, Cassiope, and Kirkfleet in that order, which is not what you want if you're Kirkfleet. You want to be in that 2 or 3 spot.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate part is, and Colton Schultz, I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but the Arizona State heavyweight was taken to the brink by Jordan Wood of Lehigh on Sunday, but did get the takedown and sudden victory.
Yeah.
And that hurts Kirkfleet and Penn State as well, because I think Kirkfleet is the second best heavyweight in the country, and I think he has the best shot of anybody of beating Stevenson.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure anybody's beating Stevenson, but I think if anybody does, it's not going to be Mason Paris, and I think the only one with any kind of a chance, and I don't know what kind of a chance it is Kirkfleet. But because Schultz won, and I think as being undefeated will get the benefit of the doubt here, even though he hasn't faced any of those other, he hasn't faced Paris or any of the top 4 guys in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So if that does hold true, and again, I think you can make a good argument for Kirkfleet to be the 2 seed at the Big Ten tournament because of his win over Paris. And again, Cassiope having the 2 losses, albeit 1 to the 1 seed and the win over the 2 seed. I mean, you can, I think, make a legitimate argument for any of the 3 to be the 2, 3, or 4 seed.
Yeah.
Between Cassiope, Paris, and Kirkfleet. But if Kirkfleet is the 4 seed at the Big Ten tournament, and if Stevenson is everything that we think he is and does everything we think he's going to do, then even if Kirkfleet comes back and gets 3rd, which is what I think would happen, the problem is you're going to have the Stevenson 1, Colton Schultz, presuming he wins the Pac-12, which I think he will do,
right.
2, and then whoever finishes second in the Big Ten tournament will end up being the 3 seed, and Kirkfleet, even though I think he's a finalist caliber wrestler, again, would have to pull the upset of the season probably in the eyes of many and beat Stevenson to get into the finals. And it's just, And again, you take care of business against Cassiope, and it's not an issue, and I understand that. But it's is this one of those things that, again, what we were talking about earlier, you get one takedown going the other way, and it's a different scenario. If just Schultz had lost to Jordan Wood on Sunday, then that changes it to where Schultz, is going to be the three, and then probably Schultz. Either 4 or 5 with the other, the 4th place finisher in the Big Ten in the other spot. So
you're rooting for an upset in the Pac-12 tournament is basically
that is yes. I think, or for Kirkfleet to be
seated higher than 4th in the Big Ten.
Yeah, or to pull the upset of the year in college wrestling, which is.
I can root for that.
The other possibility here that could open things up. We'll see how it all goes. Real quick, did want to hit just real quickly on the Brian Flores hiring by the Steelers, because I think it is
good hire.
Obviously, it's a great hire from a PR standpoint. You have the only African-American head coach in the NFL right now, and now you hire the guy that many were worried might be blackballed because of his lawsuit against the NFL and everything. And listen, Flores is a terrific coach, and obviously overqualified for the position the Steelers have him in. So to me, it is a win-win for the Steelers and Mike Tomlin. You're getting a guy that is, I think a high-quality head coach caliber coach in as a position coach at a position that, by the way, you need significant improvement in to get where you want to be.
To say the least.
Again, it's a huge win. I will say I've never been a big quota guy, and I like the Rooney Rule when it was implemented. I really did. I think that the idea behind it, getting people just in the mix and in the forethought of the minds of those that are hiring is important. And I don't necessarily think it is racism that's behind the lack of black head coaches in the NFL. But I do think there is something to that, the old boys network. And again, I don't know that it's overt or even latent racism as much as it is that there just has not been, and I'm not exactly sure. I think the NFL is seriously trying to properly address this. It is absurd to me. And again, I'm not a big quota guy, and I don't like the idea of, hey, we have 10 positions in I like even the Supreme Court. I'm not against having any ethnicity or religion represented in the Supreme Court. I'd rather that it be decided on merit and listen. I think there are plenty that are able to meet the merit of all of the various religions and ethnicities that are out there. But it is hard to fathom, right, in the National Football League, where there is such a presence of African Americans. It is bordering on absurd that there is only one African American head coach right now. Like that is, and when you look at the Eric Bieniemys and Brian Flores, I mean, there should be more. I mean, there are more qualified guys, and you look at some of the retreads that are given 2 or 3 opportunities after a lack of success. I don't know. It is troubling. I think it is rightly troubling.
There are so many bad, hiring and firing decisions made across the NFL. And so probably at any given time, I think about 2/3 of the franchise in the league are being managed below the Mendoza line of competency. Yeah. And so when your numbers are so low to begin with, it to me it's mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing to me that Jim Caldwell got fired after a winning season in Detroit. like that franchise has been a dumpster fire for literally the last 70 years. And he had a quarterback who we now know 100% was capable of leading a team to a Super Bowl championship. And they went to the playoffs. They were having winning records, and it was almost like Detroit's management and ownership was so used to being terrible that the moment they had a taste of success, their eyes got bigger than their stomach, and they thought they were the Green Bay Packers, and they fired the guy. And of course, it's been a predictable disaster since. But those kind of stupid decisions get made in the NFL all the time. But when you've only got 2 or 3 at the most black head coaches, and one of them gets canned by idiot ownership, that's a huge blow. It's crazy. Yeah.
So
Brian Flores is another example. It's ludicrous. He should not have been fired in Miami. That's
it really is absurd when you look at the trajectory that organization was on.
Another total
and after the start that they had, it's I don't know, that one is very hard to understand. So again, I do think there's an issue there. I'm not big on the quotas, but there is something that is not right in that league where Mike Tomlin is the only African American head coach at this moment. Like that's just. It's just absurd.
A subplot everybody forgot about, and I think it's partially because it is like really niche and super confusing. I love the NFL draft, and I can't keep it straight. Is the system of awarding it's like compensatory picks. It's just picks that get tacked on at the end of I think it's the day 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what all the rules are. It's like if you hire a black coach or GM and then that person gets hired to takes a promotion with another organization, you get a compensatory draft pick for the loss of that, hiring that person and helping get into the pipeline. I don't remember what all the rules are or anything, but this is the first year come draft time, we're going to see teams getting to make extra picks. And I do think, there are a lot of people like me who obsess over this and watch it on TV. And especially if a couple of guys who get selected with those picks end up making an impact on the roster, then that's going to get a ton of pub. So we'll see. But this is the first year we're going to start seeing that in practice.
That's going to wrap up the show for today, and we will be back on Thursday.
Only 66 days.
Let the good times roll. We will talk to you again on Thursday. Until then, be good, be dry, and be safe.
Best 2 out of 3.
It's one fantastic ride. The turbocharged, tech-inspired new Kia Forte.
There's always something happening at Quaker Steak Lube. From live music to exciting new flavors, meet your friends and refuel at your local Quaker Steak Lube today. Can't slow down? Then order online. Pick up and get back on the road. Find us at thelube.com.
He's not getting that car in there.
No, sir.
Hey, look at these 2 troublemakers.
Johnny, how are you?
Wicked car, is that new?
Yeah, it's a Sonata. Let me park it.
Oh, you're not fitting your car in there.
Chris, stop being a smarty pants, all right? Look who's got Smart Park. Even Bruiser can park it. Just hit the clicker. I can park it anywhere.
Beaver Stadium?
Parked it.
Even the Jordan Center?
Parked it.
Even Medler Field?
Even Bruiser parked it.
Hey, you can't park there.
He's got Smart Park!
Wicked smart.
Blaze Alexander Hyundai. It's wicked smart.